Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to Abnormal Voyages. My name is David, and today we bring you a very special cemetery safari. Though usually we cover well-known and notable humans, today we look at those furry friends that we all love, animals. Now, animals play a big part in a lot of different ways, but one of the biggest ways is pets. So we start out here in Columbus, Ohio, at the Brown Pet Cemetery. Tag along.
We're going to a place that you've never heard of before. It's Abnormal Voyages. You're gonna learn something new. We're gonna open new doors. It's Abnormal Voyages.
Right off the bat, I have to say, out of all the cemeteries we have visited through our travels, this one was one of the most meaningful and heartfelt. Everywhere you looked were tributes to people's lost pets. It's interesting how humans and animals can form such a strong bond. This place here exists to show you that possibly this bond reaches further than life itself and into the great beyond. The Brown Pet Cemetery was started in the 1920s by Walter A. Brown, who was a local veterinarian in the area. He realized that people wanted somewhere to visit their pets after they were gone, and decided to get some land and start allowing people to inter their pets here. So as you walk around, you can find beloved pets stretching back from 1924 all the way up to more modern day ones. I believe the most recent one we saw was a pet who was put in 2019, though as far as I know, they have not closed this off for people who still wish to go and bury pets there today. You'll notice that a lot of the graves have not only the name of the animals on them, but a lot of them also have the names of the pet parents who loved them so much. Seeing the headstones that had pictures of the animals was really cool, and it gave you a great idea of who was here. There were some cats at this one, as well as a bird. Hopefully the death of the bird was not because of the cats. And some people got very creative with the designs that went on their pet's grave. A lot of people had etchings on there in the actual stone of what their pet looked like. Here's one example of that. And then another one here with Mitzi. Fantastically done, if you ask me. This one is Fanfra, who you can see was a good girl and perfect puppy. Some of them even had some awesome statues involved with them, as you can see with these graves. There was a cat on one side here, and then her doggy friend curled up to sleep right next to her. But of all the artistic graves out here, my favorite was this one. Sporty Reed. Look at that masterful dog drawing. Absolutely perfect. There were some notable ones as well, such as Orion's Lady's Dart and Orion's Sirius, who, back in their day, in the late 60s and 70s, were amateur field champions, so some of their exploits are remembered here on their grave together. And a little further down, we find Brownie, who was the mascot of Joyce California Inc. Unfortunately, we weren't able to dig up much information about this company, but I'm sure that Brownie brought a lot of joy to all the employees at this company. This one has Mickey Mouse on it, but last I checked he was still alive and well, so hopefully this was just somebody who borrowed his name. And then some graves were completely handmade, such as this one here, which is an artistic memorial to Boots. Like this headstone says, and the dog got up and followed. It sure is a nice thought that even after death, our pet souls will be there waiting for us, ready to follow us wherever we may go next. Speaking of next, we now leave this beautiful pet cemetery to visit a pet that belonged to an entire town. We are now in Natchez, Mississippi at City Hall, which happens to be the final resting place of a very special cat, Tripod. Now, as the name may have given away, Tripod the cat only had 3 legs, but still became the beloved mascot of this city. So much so that when Tripod passed away, citizens of Natchez all pitched in to help there be a proper gravestone for the city's kitty. And when it was all tallied up, local legend says that Tripod had more money than the actual city funds. Now, I'm not sure if that's true, but regardless, they did manage to get together a gorgeous stone that is now here right at City Hall, just like Tripod used to be. It's incredible that a slightly disabled animal can somehow find their way into the hearts of hundreds of people. I think it's safe to say that whatever Tripod was missing in the legs department was more than made up for in all the smiles and happiness that was brought to this city. Moving on to a slightly more controversial animal, we head to Beech Grove, Tennessee. This is where we find the roadside final resting place of Old Isham, who was a Confederate warhorse. Old Isham was owned by General Benjamin Franklin Cheatham and was named after the Confederate governor of Tennessee, Isham Harris. The general had grown quite attached to Old Isham and took him home to live on his farm after the war had ended. Once Old Isham passed away, he was buried here with full military honors. For quite a while, Old Isham actually kind of disappeared from the history books, but in 2002, the Sons of Confederate Veterans located the grave and marked it with the tombstone you see here, and even had a dedication with speeches and a salute with rifles and cannons. That's a lot of fanfare for one horse. The Civil War in general was a very odd period of time, and to prove that, we head to our next grave in Vicksburg, Mississippi. The Soldiers' Rest section of Cedar Hill Cemetery has over 5,000 grave markers for Confederate soldiers. A lot of the graves look exactly the same, and it's very easy to get lost wandering around out here looking for any specific soldier. However, if you take your time and really look closely, you'll notice one very special grave that honors a very special soldier. This is the grave of Douglas the Camel. Douglas served with the 43rd Mississippi Infantry. The soldiers loved him so much they made him their mascot, and they eventually became known as the Camel Regiment. Unfortunately, even though the human soldiers loved Douglas, the horses in their company were not as big of fans of him. Nevertheless, Douglas was a key member of his infantry and carried a lot of gear. Unfortunately, during the siege of Vicksburg, the Union Army specifically targeted Douglas, and he was taken out by a Union sharpshooter. Due to a severe lack of food on the Confederate side, the soldiers ended up having to eat Douglas. After all that, the least they could do for Douglas was honor him with this memorial spot. For another animal familiar with war, we turn our attention to Cleveland, Ohio, where we find the memorial and final resting place of Smokey the Hero Dog. also nicknamed Yorkie Doodle Dandy. This brave little girl was actually found in an abandoned foxhole in the jungles of New Guinea. She was quickly taken in by Corporal William A. Wynn of Cleveland, Ohio, and became a favorite of all the soldiers who knew her. Even though she wasn't one of the official war dogs, Smokey was credited with 12 combat missions and awarded 8 battle stars. She survived over 150 air raids, and at one point even parachuted from 30 feet up in the air out of a tree using a parachute made specially for her. Her final resting place is now a memorial not only to her, but all other United States war dogs. And on the subject of furry heroes, we have one more to visit in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Here at the International Space Hall of Fame, we find the final resting place of Ham the Astro Chimp. As has been mentioned in previous voyages, Ham was the world's very first chimpanzee to go into space and one of the very first animals altogether. His heroic flight launched on January 31st in 1961. He traveled 155 miles in 16 and a half minutes before splashing down in the Atlantic Ocean. After his safe landing, Ham lived for the next 17 years at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., before being moved to another zoo in North Carolina with other chimps, and that's where he found a very special lady chimp that he loved for the rest of his life. He died peacefully of old age in January of 1983 at the age of 27. It just goes to show that heroes come in all sizes. Well, my name is David, and this has been Abnormal Voyages. Thanks for tagging along. We'll see you next time.